Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Folks, let me tell you something. The show today is about blue states and red states, and it turns out that blue states are supporting red states. But we knew that, right? But I mean, Robert Wright wrote an article today that I think is of interest, and that's what we're going to be the blog of the week. But before we get started with that, all the news today, one of the pieces of news that got to me today mostly was the Amazon news. How many of you have listened to what occurred in New York, Virginia, and Tennessee? Those are the folks who won the bid for building the new Amazon headquarters. And it is appalling, and I want folks to understand what is going on right here. Once again, you know, the plutocracy wins one more time. Not only do they win one more time, but they extract from us all one more time. And they do it in a fashion that none of us actually sees, right? So it turns out Amazon puts out a bid out there. They want to have their headquarters moved. So what are they going to do? They're going to have all these cities around the country bidding on Amazon. I love Amazon. I buy Amazon products because, you know why? It's not their products. I buy from Amazon because it is convenient as hell. As a political activist with a blog, a radio show, a media show, processing videos and all that kind of stuff, I don't have a hell of a lot of time to go out to the stores and buy a camera when I need a camera, or buy a mixer when I need a mixer, or buy a shoes, or buy all these other things, right? So they make life very easy for you. I go ahead, and if I'm writing a blog and I remember, I got to go buy this, I just bring up the Amazon app and I buy it, and in the next day or two, it's right there at the door and I'm ready to go. They make life very easy. Welcome aboard, Mark McVeigh. Welcome aboard, Mr. Rudnan, or resident researcher. Now, folks, we're going to talk about the red state blue state issue. We're really going to talk about that, but we need this just came up today in some of the write-ups, and I really want to get it covered because it is only upon you. Only you can stop your local mayors and all these others. I'm going to tell you a discussion that I had with a councilman here in town, and I want to express this story because what it shows you. It shows you that you don't matter if you don't make yourself matter. And why we have activists out there, why we have the Politics Done Right out there, why we have all these programs out there, is to make sure that you take back control. Because you really have control. So we are going to talk about Amazon, all right? But I want to tell you a quick story that occurred this week. Or actually, it occurred. What is today? Today's Tuesday. I think it occurred on Saturday. Actually, it occurred on Saturday. I walk into Starbucks, and I see a fireman that is talking to a politician, my councilman. Okay, and they're into a heavy discussion, and I hear the fireman kind of not shouting but raising his voice and saying, "No, this is what we want," and that's the kind of stuff that he's talking about. Interestingly, that Thursday, I was over in another part of town doing a podcast with a co-host at that worked at that used to be the previous manager at KPFT, previous director at KPFT. He has a podcast now. We are discussing. He brings in a fire official, and he brings in other folks, and we're having a discussion about a vote that took place here in Houston, the Houston area. As it turns out, the Houston firemen or fire people, persons, wanted to have the same pay as police officers. After all, they both put their lives on the line. And as I was informed, they make quite a bit less than police officers. I guess the police officers are better negotiators. So as the negotiations ended between the firefighters and the city of Houston, they said, well, we'll just take it to the voters. That's what the firefighters said. And then the mayor and others said, well, if you do that, and the people approve it, it means we're going to have to lay off people and we're going to have to do X, Y, Z. So that is their position. That is council and mayor's position, that if the people vote for this bill, they'll have to lay off police officers, they'll have to lay off some firemen, they'll have to lay off sanitation workers. So what they're trying to do is the city to prevent the firemen from getting their raise and coming back to the negotiating table. What they wanted them to do is they wanted to bribe them and say, if you go and do that, you are going to be hurting other people. And what they're trying to do is create a dissension between the firemen and the policemen, and between the policemen and the sanitation workers. And you know what? The policemen fell for it too. The policemen are out there trying to tell people, don't vote for that proposition because it'll hurt. It'll mean that a mechanic at the fire mechanic is going to make the same as a captain of. Look, they have all these things that they have all the peons fighting against each other. The cops fighting against the firemen fighting against the sanitation workers because they're fighting for crumbs, right? Now, after they brought it to the vote, the people in Kingwood and Houston all over voted, we want to support our firemen, okay? We want to support our firemen. And interestingly, in supporting the firemen, what it really meant is that now, as it turns out, they're not going to give the guys a raise, even though the people accepted it. Now they're trying to sue them, and I'm not exactly sure on what grounds they're suing them, but they want to sue them. That is the city wanting to sue the firemen. Okay, so I'm watching this conversation between the fireman and my councilman. You know, he's on a city council that's going to determine the pay. And he's telling the fireman, look, we are comparing these notes, and you got raises, and it wasn't as much, but, you know, you'll put these other people at risk. And starting Monday, we are going to start laying off because the voters approved. The voters approved of it. Okay. I am listening to the conversation, having listened to the conversation from the fireman's point of view when I did the previous podcast. So I butt into the conversation. It's none of my business to butt into the conversation, but I get it. And I said, Councilman, why is it that you are telling this fireman, after the people of Houston voted yes to increase the pay of these firemen, why are you, one, suing them? I don't want to sue them, but we have to. Why? The money isn't there. Oh, no. The money, whether it's there or not, is academic. The people of Houston said they want to pay the fire people some more money. It is your responsibility to find a way to do it. It may be that you have to go back and tell the people who said yes. It may be safer for you to tell the people who said yes, we are going to go ahead and pay these guys, but we are going to have a marginal increase in taxes to do what you told us to do. You have to be the responsible person to tell the constituents that story. Okay, fine. Oh, well, you try asking people for a pay raise. My councilman is a conservative guy. I said, the problem is your fault. It is your fault that you've taught a lot of your constituents that every time you are running, and every time you are running against a progressive or anybody else, that somehow you can give them all these services by cutting their taxes, keeping their services constant, and at the same time paying for it with efficiencies and the like. And this is proven to be false. You can't increase the pay of firemen or fire persons and at the same time pay these other bills. You have to raise taxes when the tax base needs to get a raise. I mean, get an increase. You can't just keep cutting taxes because it gets you a vote. Well, I can't go to folks and ask them for a tax increase. We have to do it within the budget. Well, then that you're going against what the people have asked you to do. They've asked you to increase the pay of the fire persons because that is what they deserve and that's what they should get. So we went back and forth, and I finally told the councilman that the problem that we have in this country right now, the problem we have is all of these politicians are constantly lying to their constituents. We can do this, we can cut your taxes. But we can do all of this, we can cut your taxes. And it's not only the Republicans doing that, because this is a democratic city. And the fact that this democratic city cannot go ahead and be honest with its constituents, and a rich democratic city that is, Houston that is, and not pay appropriately is a sham. So in continuing the conversation with the councilman, he said, but Egberto, do you know something? Do you know that we have to, if we want to do certain things, what we have to do is pay these different companies to come to the city because that's what they want. Are you kidding me? He is saying, and the reason I brought this story up is because it ties right into the Amazon story. He said, you know what, when a company wants to move to Houston, you know what they tell us? This is what they tell us. They tell us, oh, well, you know, what we really want to know is that, do you have the arts? Do you have a baseball team? Do you have a football team? Do you have a basketball team? And if we don't say yes to that, they go somewhere else. And some other city is going to be willing to pay them or is going to be willing to subsidize the stadium. So then I asked the councilman, why bring the teams, why bring these companies in if it is proven that the net job creation from all these companies that claim they're moving here because of the incentives you give them neither pays for the incentive nor generally increase the employment of the people already in the city. Many times these people a lot of these companies bring the people with them and they just drop them into the city. And he's like, well, not quite. And so we went into all kinds of ideological conversations as far as why it is that we're a corporatocracy, why it is that while people talk, while people tell you what they want, you are never able to give it to them because ultimately you still follow the rules of what the corporation say. Well, here comes Amazon. Amazon wants incentives to move their headquarters. Do you really think they were going to move their headquarters to Tulsa? Do you really think they were going to move their headquarters to Detroit? Do you really think they were going to move their headquarters to Houston, Austin, or any one of these towns, or any one of the Midwestern Rust Belt cities that were all bidding for it but giving them all kinds of tax incentives? They had no intentions, Amazon that is, no intentions of moving those 50-something thousand people to any of those cities. What they did is they got bids from all these cities, just like the councilman told me. My councilman says, yeah, we have to try to make it attractive to bring them here. And they line it up, and then they know what their best offer is, and they just had to take it to New York and D.C., Virginia, and say, hey, this is what we are working with. Match it. And of course, New York, out of their budget, takes $1.8 billion and gives it to Amazon. And Virginia takes $700+ million and give it to Amazon. And Tennessee gives them another $100 million. With all the school systems needing money to educate the kids in the state, these same states are going to come back and say, well, there's no money in the budget to do it. So this is what I told the councilman. Somehow, there's always money in the budget to come up with the necessary abatements, with the necessary giveaways to the stadium, to the necessary giveaways to the team, to the necessary giveaways for all these other things. But when it comes to the folks saying, you know what, we need to have these incentives to pay our teachers more, they say, we don't have the money. But let me give you the kicker, my dear brothers and sisters, right? Here is the kicker. And this is what's so important and what people don't understand, right? You bring the companies here. These companies come with some employment, but they don't really, those things don't materialize. If we simply increased our taxes and paid the teachers more, and paid the fire persons more, and paid the sanitation workers more, they would have more disposable incomes in their pockets. And that in itself would be an incentive to increase the economy of the region. Why? Because that fire person that has more money in their pockets will spend that money immediately. You'll say then, but wait a minute, there's less money coming from the person who had to pay more taxes. Yeah, but the person that's going to pay the most in those extra taxes are those that are wealthier, whose the taxes will not mitigate the amount of money they would have spent in the first place. So therefore, if it's a progressive tax and you're going to tax that $10 million person more, right? Is that $10 million a person going to go to a restaurant a day less? No, that person is still going to go to the restaurant. But that fire person and that sanitation worker, they're going to go ahead and spend that money, and they're going to take their loved one out for another meal out. They'll go ahead and buy more groceries. They'll do a whole lot of other things with that money. It will increase the economy, and at the same, so you're making people more prosperous without giving away to our corporations whose profits, who increase profits from the tax abatements, is going to a few shareholders, a few more rich people. Folks, are you getting what I am saying, folks? It is so important that we understand what's going on here. It is so important that we understand what is going on here. That what they did. I mean, there's a story. I think it was placed by the story is actually in the Atlantic. I mean, it said three reasons why these things shouldn't be done, and I want to read that because it is so important, right? Because everybody thinks. Here it is. It says, but there are three major problems with America's system of corporate giveaways. First, they're redundant. One recent study by Nathan Jensen, an economist at George Washington University, found that these incentives have no discernible impact on firm expansion measured by job creation. Companies often decide where they want to go and then find ways to get their dream city or hometown. So that's what we were saying. They're using you, or to pay them to do what they were going to do anyway. For example, Amazon is a multinational company with large media and advertising divisions. The drama of the past 13 months probably wasn't crucial to its probable decision to expand to New York City, the unambiguous capital of media advertising. Second, companies don't always hold up their end of the deal. Consider the saga of Wisconsin and the Chinese manufacturing giant Foxconn. Several years ago, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker lured Foxconn with a subsidy plan totaling more than $3 billion. For the same amount, you could give every household in Wisconsin about $1,700. Foxconn said it would build a large manufacturing plant that would create about 13,000 jobs near Racine. Now it seems the company is building a much, much smaller factory with just 1/4 of its initial promised investment, and much of the assembly work may be done by robots. Meanwhile, the expected value of Wisconsin's subsidy has grown to more than $4 billion. Thus, a state with declining wages for many public school teachers could wind up paying more than $500,000 per net new Foxconn job, about 10 times the average salary of a Wisconsin teacher. Third, even when the incentives aren't redundant, and even when companies do not hold up their end of the bargain, it is still ludicrous for Americans to collectively pay tens of billions of dollars for huge corporations to relocate within the United States. no story illustrates this absurdity more than the so-called border war, in which the Kansas and Missouri sides of Kansas City have spent zillions of dollars dragging companies back and forth across state lines within the same metro area. Several years ago, Kansas lured AMC Entertainment with tens of millions of dollars in incentives. Then Missouri responded by stealing Applebee's headquarters from Kansas with another incentive package. Back and forth they went until both states had spent $500 million creating no net new jobs, but changing the commutes of 10,000 Kansas City workers who got caught up in the interstate duel. That is what we're talking about. And you know what? They know it. These are just corporate giveaways. And, you know, they probably get a few campaign funds here and a campaign funds there to do this. People, we have to be smarter than that. And we have to start ensuring that these guys tell us what to do. That they don't tell us what to do, that we tell them what to do. Just like here in Houston, we are the ones that told them, pay the firefighters more. And we didn't give them the command that we gave them wasn't pay the firefighters more by laying off sanitation workers, by laying off police officers. We said, pay them more. Now you tell us what you need to do to pay them more. That does not involve changing anything we didn't ask you to do. If it means increasing taxes to some extent, do so. But be honest with the American people. Because this lie that we tell them all of the times that somehow, first of all, giving corporations good deals to come to your city is going to improve it's going to make it better for the city. That's not true. And it's been proven not to be true. It only helps the owners of these companies, and they have great big parties and they do their thing, but you are left holding the bag. Folks, we have to stop falling for the crap. One of the reasons why the politicians, and I told this to the councilman, they get away with the crap that they get away with because nobody is out there telling Americans the crap is really crap. We have to have a whole lot of people out there telling the truth, and that is what we do here at Politics Done Right. Before I go to the blog of the week, I have to do my regular ask here and saying, folks, please, if you really believe that we need programs informing our fellow Americans or fellow citizens. If you really believe that we have to start taking our politics back, if you believe that, please, my dear brothers and sisters, let's support progressive media. You can support us by going to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. Again, that is patreon.com/politics done right. For us to survive this all, we need several hundreds subscribers at very small amounts. Check it out. Just go ahead and go to patreon.com/politics done right. Folks, it is essential that we are informing our fellow people how this stuff works, because they are taking advantage of us over and over again. You know what they say, if you do the same thing over and over again the same way and expect a different result, that is insanity. And believe me, that is where we're looking at right now, and a type of insanity here, because we as citizens of this country, we have to take control ourselves. We can't keep saying, okay, they're lying to us. They're lying to us, and then you blame them. You blame the Democrats this time, and then you blame the Republicans the next time, and you keep ping-ponging between two groups of people that ultimately will use you if you allow them to do so. We are the ones who have to get smart. We are the ones who have to take the country back, not the politician. They're going to do whatever they have to do to get away with whatever they're doing. So we have to take it back. And it's not just shouting, oh, let's take it back, because, you know, these words sound great. The question is, are you going to do and take the steps necessary to do so? Are you going to be the one taking the steps necessary to enforce that corporations cannot continue to abuse us? Are you going to take the necessary step that what Amazon did doesn't come to fruition? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez started to raise hell when the Amazon deal was announced. My question to Miss Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is she going to build a posse with New Yorkers and others? And right now it needs to be with New Yorkers and Virginians and Tennesseans to say, you decided to give away our tax dollars to Amazon. Don't try to take it out of us now on our teachers' pay. Don't try to take it out of our infrastructure. Don't take it out of anything else. You decided as independent, as our government, to give them that money. Don't be asking the average New Yorker who's struggling. Don't be asking the average Virginian who's struggling to enrich yet another corporation. And folks, remember, this is monies they don't need for their expansion, nor do we owe them for their expansion. We should, we talk about welfare, right? Everybody always talk about keep the government out of the corporate lives or whatever. Why the hell then are these governors giving monies to these corporations to get them to move or to beg them to come? We should make it unconstitutional. We should make it unconstitutional for governments to be able to give any of these guys any money out of the coffers into the private sector, giving them tax abatements. Are you kidding me? What about the companies that's been there in New York? What about the companies that made New York their home and did it the right way? All those small mom and pop shops. Did anybody give them an incentive? All the bagel shop, the pickle shop, the salami shop, the cheese factory. Did anybody give them incentives? And they're there. You're not rewarding loyalty. Those companies that stayed in New York, those companies that are in New York, Virginia, Tennessee, maybe they're the ones who should get a tax cut. Not giving some outsider a tax rebate to come, but those companies that are there in New York, those companies that are there in Tennessee, those companies that are there in Virginia, they showed their loyalty to those states by being there. Why is it that they are not the ones receiving some sort of a tax abatement for their loyalty, which would help them hire somebody else or help them give health care to their employees? It is all twisted around. We are not rewarding loyalty. We are not rewarding honesty. We're rewarding the charlatanes. Ellos no iban a venir. They were always going to come. Siempre iba a ir a New York. All the times they were going to go to New York. But they just wanted to have the necessary bribe to have those folks bring them to New York. Understand how these things work. And now, like I said before, we may sit down and think, oh, well, we can scream, it's already done. No, it's not already done. You heard what happened in Wisconsin. Foxconn was going to hire how many thousand people, and it turns out, as opposed to the 13,000 people, Foxconn is only going to hire 20-something hundred people. Oh, the state made a deal with Foxconn. Well, Foxconn is a private company, and they said, oops, well, we can't do it anymore, so we're not going to do it. How comes they get the deal and they can do as they please, and we are committed to support them? Come on. And there is recourse now. I think on Thursday I'm going to have those people who flipped District 7 in Houston. There's a congressman in Houston, Culberson, very strong congressman who is always, strong Republican and all this. These people in District 7, they walked their block, they talked to people, they educated their people, they made people know that this guy was not fulfilling their interests, and they got him out of there. And this district that was a solid Republican district flipped right here in Texas. These people show how it is done. In other words, it is not politics by hope. It is politics by action. And that is what we have to do. We have to be empowered. If you're at work And you can't be out there walking with those folks who are going to be out there encouraging people to vote and teaching them what they need to do. If you are not going to be out there, right? It's okay. It's really okay if you're not going to be out there. But support those who are out there. Support those who are on the line. I wrote, a friend of mine, an activist friend of mine, wrote a note on Facebook, and she said they were talking about Beto O'Rourke. And the write-up that they'd made of Beto O'Rourke said the following. While Beto O'Rourke didn't win, the good thing that he did is he brought in all those votes in Harris County, and they turned that entire county around. And she was mad. And the way she said it, I think she said something like, there it goes again. We go out here and we work our butts off to turn this county around. And they put it on this singular person as being the catalyst for bringing the vote in. Now, look, I've been guilty of saying Beto O'Rourke didn't win, but it brought in, the excitement brought in a lot of vote. That is true. But the way the article is written, they made it a singular issue on a person, on a man, not realizing that what worked is that these folks use that man as their catalyst to run around the county and bring the prize in. When they turned District 7, when they turned the district up there in Dallas, these were people working their asses off. These were people working hard, beating the pavement. These were people talking, knocking on doors. These were people making telephone calls. I remember there were times that I would call and say, hey, I want to cover a story. And they'll say, we don't need a story covered now. We need a phone bank. That's what one of my fellow activists told me. I was in Starbucks saying, I want to run around on election day to go ahead and see if I can get a story that I wanted to bring you guys. Say, oh, right now we don't talk about stories. Right now we talk about, I don't have a story for you right now, Egberto, but you can come in and phone bank. And when she told me that, you know what I did? I went to the headquarters and I phone banked. That is what we have to learn. We can actually make a difference. And that's what these people did. They made a difference. You can make a difference as well. This election is not over. We are going to win probably 40 seats. Democrats, progressives are going to probably net 40 seats. It is actually a wave. Finally, those folks that said it's not a, when one of the reporters in, I think it was the Washington Post or one of them came out and said, oh, it's not a wave, it's a realignment. He corrected himself today. Today, he went on national TV and said, after all, it was not a realignment. It was a wave. We're going to win 40 seats. And the 40 seats we're talking about are federal seats, the national seats. But he said, oh, my God, but look at what's happening all over the state. My friend, John, wins a House seat nobody thought he was going to win. And over and over and over, we see local people winning. So it's not only in the national level, but in the state level that started to win in our supposedly red state, really non-voting state, that we brought out new voters. All we got to do is redouble the efforts to bring even more out. Because one of the reasons, if you remember, folks, how immediately after the election I came on and I started talking about we won, and I wrote articles at the Daily Coast saying we won. That one at the Daily Coast on Sunday went crazy because why? Because a lot of people were in the doldrums because we didn't win the 4 races, or we don't think we won the 4 races that the media wanted to make the catalyst of whether we were successful or not. Abrams, Gillum, Nelson, and Beto O'Rourke. It looks like all 4 of those may lose. And they wanted to make that the bellwether. They wanted to say, if those races are lost, then it was no wave. The truth of the matter is they chose that as the bellwether. We knew what the bellwether was. The bellwether was recovering all the stuff we lost from the time Obama went into office, which is almost more than half the legislatures. 1,000. We lost 1,000 legislatures during the Obama period. While Obama was winning big numbers, we were losing like hell around the states. But that's not what they covered at the time. And if it's not covered, you can't work towards solving it, right? If you're looking at a star, if you're just looking at whether the star is winning or the star is losing, You forget all the underpinnings that are going on below. So while Obama was winning and some of the stars were winning, all our states were going to hell. And then came the redistricting, right? Which further made it a deeper hill to climb. Now, things are improving. Why? Not because of what the media is saying, not because of what the big wigs are saying, because of what those people did in District 7, because of what those people did in District 21, because of what those people did in California 21, because of what those people did in all these other districts where they're out there, indivisible, swing left, pantsuit republic. All these guys are out there. Black Lives Matter. All these guys are out there doing the job of saying we're reclaiming what is ours. And you know what? All them, the Republicans and all those Republican light Democrats, and notice what I said, all those darn Republican light Democrats, the ones that don't realize nobody's going to vote for Democrat light. They're going to vote for the real thing if they have the option. So might as well be who you are. After all, most Americans are in fact progressives if you ask them by values what they want. If you ask them by value what they want, most Americans are progressives. And henceforth now, we can go to the topic of the program, if I can get to pull it up, because it's rather important, right? Bear with me 1 second. Let's see. All right, let's see. Okay. The title of the program today is para ver. It's time to tell red states that blue states are keeping them afloat. And the subtitle, here's the reality. While the red states love talking about wanting a small government, they are dependent on big government financed by blue states. That's not a question. That's a fact. That is not a question. So my brothers and sisters that are Republicans and red state folks that think, oh, we want small government, listen and listen well. Because even if you're not on welfare in your state as a red state, even if you are not on any assistance in your red states, because your red state is a net taker, if for some reason we went to a small government, guess what happens, my friends? Your state suffers because remember, economy is based on the circulation of money. Every economy is based on the circulation of money, and a lot of the money you are circulating in your red state is government money. You take that government money out of circulation and your state craters. And your state craters. Not a question, a fact. Okay, so here we go. Red state residents who vote for Republicans who lie to them about small government and welfare suffer from a type of cognitive dissonance. If we are to reach them, we must touch them with a narrative they can see. Some think it is impossible to change the chronically misinformed because they adopt their ideology on more than what directly affect them. This is partially true with some. It is true, however, that many of them do not spend the time trying. It's tedious, takes a lot of time, and there are many relapses that are continual, requiring refreshing over and over again. It's true. I talk to a lot of folks on the right. I convince them of stuff many times. We have discussions. Sometimes they may flip me a bit in some ideas of why they are a certain way or whatever. But a lot of times after you think the job is done, in other words, okay, they've seen the light, they'll come back because it is hard when you've been indoctrinated for such a long time and you've been made whole. You have to find a way to figure out, why is it that I lasted with this indoctrination so long? So you need to get all the cobwebs out. I'm talking about a right winger now. They have to be able to really convince themselves that they were all in error. And it takes time. And if it doesn't take time, it's not long lasting. If it does not take time, it is not long lasting. So folks, today's blog of the week is not my own. It's my favorite ripoff. And it's my favorite ripoff from my good friend, the guy that I like, Robert Reich. So what time is it, folks?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Ok, está bien. Vamos a comenzar con el weekly blog post. Title of it is How Blue States Help Red States. And here it is from El Señor Reich. Donald Trump and Republicans in Congress love to demonize government handouts, which in fact their own supporters depend on and are increasingly financed by taxpayers in blue states. The federal program Temporary Assistance for Needy Family, what used to be called welfare, provides cash assistance to fewer than 1% of Americans. But the Trump administration is proposing to lump many social programs under a new agency with the word welfare in its title. I wonder why he's doing that. What he doesn't realize in doing that, however, when he says welfare in the title, he's making it quite aware to all them people in Michigan, all them people in Ohio, all those people in Iowa, all those people in Illinois, all those people in Wisconsin, all those people in Alabama, all those people in Mississippi, all those people in Texas, all those people that are mostly his voters dependent on welfare. He's putting that in the title, baby. Defined this broadly, a large chunk of America relies on welfare. Add in disability benefits, unemployment insurance, and medical benefits. Such so-called welfare amounts to 17% of the average American's income. Welfare has become especially unpopular in red states that vote Republican and support Trump. But these same states are often the biggest beneficiaries of government assistance, include price supports for agriculture, subsidies for land management and forestry, and defense contractors. And you find that a large portion of the economies of red states depend on whom? Government dollars. Here's the irony. Residents of blue states send more tax money to Washington than they get back in federal help, while red states send less money to Washington than they get back in federal help. In 2015, for example, New Jersey got back 74 cents in federal spending for every tax dollar it sent to Washington. New York got back 81 cents. Connecticut got back 82 cents, and Massachusetts got back 83 cents. So again, all these guys paid a whole lot of money to Washington, and they got back pennies on the dollars for federal spending in their states. But when you turn to the red states, it's the opposite. Mississippi received one of the most red states, one of the states that most abhor government, one of the states that says, oh, we don't care about anything else. We just want government out of our lives. Mississippi receives $2.13 for every single tax dollar they sent to Washington. West Virginia, another one of those states, $2.07 for every dollar they send. Kentucky, $1.90. South Carolina, $1.71 for every dollar they send. They get back more. In other words, they're net takers. They're net takers, red states are. Taking the Trump administration's expansive view of the meaning of welfare to its logical conclusion to include all those benefiting from federal spending, blue states are sending welfare to red states, the same red states that say they don't like welfare. Under Trump's new tax law, blue states will be given even more welfare handouts to red states. That's because the law set new limits to the amount of state and local taxes people can deduct from their federal taxable incomes. And since people in blue states pay much more state and local taxes than people in red states, blue staters will be paying that much more in federal taxes. So as you can see, these blue states are subsidizing the red states. And a lot of the people, because you have better education as well, because they pay for it. You know, in Texas, we can't get people to understand that education is an investment that doesn't have immediate payoff, but it pays off after the education has been given and the experience has been given. So in effect, what's happening, right, is we are importing talent. Because they're lacking because of those red states lacking in educating folk, they have to bring these educated people from elsewhere. So you wonder, why are we bringing in people from India? Well, India is subsidizing America. When you have Indian engineers and Indian doctors and Chinese engineers and Chinese doctors and all these doctors and law and engineers and science professionals coming from elsewhere because we are not graduating enough of them, because we don't have enough of them that can take the curriculum at the University of Texas or Harvard or Princeton or wherever, where you find a overpopulation of some folk, that means we are receiving subsidies as well from foreign countries as these people stay in this country to make things better. When we're telling stories, a lot of times we don't tell stories the way they really are, right? We tell stories to make it look like we are great. But in effect, if you need engineers and you can't manufacture them here and they're coming from outside of the country, it is telling you that other countries are investing to make people you are not capable, not that you've decided not to invest in. And it's not that we have a shortage of people. If we really wanted to invest in people, we could have however many engineers we need. We could have however many doctors we need. But we have to invest. So, which means an even bigger transfer from blue states residents to all those in the red states. Okay? Now, I better read the first before. And since people in blue states pay much more in state and local taxes than people in red state, blue staters will be paying that much more in federal taxes, which means an even bigger transfer from blue states residents to all those red states Republicans whose party despises handouts. But that is what they're getting, a whole lot of handouts from the people they claim to despise. It's amazing. And the hate that you see and the narrative that you hear, unless we are out there correcting the record, people, right here in Texas, all those organizations that I mentioned before, yeah, they're out there correcting the record. And when the record is corrected, you get results. When the record is corrected, you get results. But you have to be someone willing to face up and get the record corrected. When I corrected the record on immigration with a friend, he came up with an article that says, oh, yeah, we do need immigration. Let's see how we can do it in a conservative way. Hey, I didn't care. The idea is we got to a common point. He believed that immigration is something that we needed. How we get there, we can fight about. But in the beginning, people just wanted to make America insular. They thought somehow America could be insular. You throw the numbers in their face, right? You want Social Security to be solvent. You can't have it with a declining population. And Americans are having less than two babies per couple, which tells you you're in a declining rate. So, folks, we, the progressives, the people who know things, you have to be out there enlightening. You can't be the one sitting back and say, those people are just so stupid. It's not that they're stupid. It's that there is an industry designed to keep them dumb. There is an industry designed to keep them uninformed, misinformed, ill-informed. And if you were a victim of that industry, if you somehow fell into it, I know quite a few intelligent people that have fallen into it, it is a circular loop that you're in. And it's hard to get out of, but you got to work to do it. Now I should add that, continue with Reich's blog. Now I should add that some of us here in blue states don't mind giving red states a bigger helping hand. The vast majority of Americans also oppose cuts to programs that aid the poor, elderly, and sick, because most Americans figure we are all in this together, and those of us who can do so ought to help out those in need. Basic principle, moral values. We don't regard it as welfare handouts. We call it social insurance. Indeed, social insurance is needed and used by almost all of us. When you include Social Security, Medicare, and unemployment insurance, and even programs relied upon mostly by the poor, end up helping a large portion of us, because roughly 1/3 of all Americans are poor at some point in their lives. It could happen to you. So remember, attacks on so-called welfare are just another means of attacking the things most of us need and dividing the country into us and them. In reality, voters in red states are as dependent on the federal government as voters in blue states, and truth be told, even more dependent. So folks, measure yourself. Realize what the truth is. I remember when a lot of times when these people are talking about, oh, we need to get rid of the government and all that sort of stuff, one of the things I used to say is like, I wish if I didn't care so much about my fellow person, I would have loved to have Republicans institute all the policies that they say they want. I would love them to institute every single one of the policies they claim they want. And the reason why is the carnage that would come out of that. You see, progressives are always there to mop up the mess. Progressives are always there to say, well, when you try to do this bad thing, we're going to try to clean it up to make things better for people. And then the people never get to see the results of the bad things, the bad policies, complete bad policies. So they just get to see partial bad stuff. But sometimes the pain is what's needed. And there are times that I wish, wow, if we could just let folks feel the pain for a second, right? Just so they can see that what we're saying is actually fact-based and the reality comes out. But if you also are a moral person, you realize that if you allow what these guys are trying to occur for one day, for one time, if you allow it, what it means is that some people die. Because right here in Texas, as our evil, and I don't use this word lightly, friends. I don't use the evil in this case lightly at all. I mean, I know calling somebody evil is a bad thing, and using that word a lot of times is bad. Sometimes it's hyperbole. This is not hyperbole. What our Republican Congress, Senate, or our legislature did by not accepting the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, as far as I'm concerned, was murder. And I do not say that lightly. I consider every single Republican, every single politician who voted in Texas to deny, to not accept the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, murder. North of 3,500 Texans die every year. Even as much as we are already paying for services that they could have had, we're paying for it here in Texas already. But for a spite, our Republican administration has said no. They've said no. They've said yes to killing 3,500 people. The only reason it goes like that is nobody says it that way. Nobody says you're killing 3,500 people. They just says, well, because of the lack of insurance, 3,500 people will die. No. Because of the lack of insurance by these folks, 3,500 people were killed by our legislature. And until we make people aware of that reality, these guys will be able to win elections with fallacies. And to be clear, I want to be very clear here. The first 3 years of the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act would have cost the state zero. So even if they were saying we couldn't afford the cost afterwards, there were 3 years that their citizens could have partaken of having health care. 3 years. But after that, would have only cost 10%. And let me tell you something. That 10% would have been recovered how? With the extra economy that got generated. Think about how many rural hospitals in Texas have closed because there was no Medicaid expansion in those rural areas that needed it, that would have made lives better for them. Not to speak about those folks who were in accidents, and because a hospital wasn't close by, they died. The person who got a heart attack that couldn't be hooked up to a machine in a local hospital, that died. Politicians, their actions have consequences. And we as progressives, we have to be able to articulate those consequences to the people who are voting these evil folks into office. Until we are able, we have to do our job. And we have to stay engaged because they don't know. Lies are great. The Heritage Foundation knows how to tell stories, knows how to give lies plausible truthness. Plausible truthfulness, that is. We have to give absolute truth. And you know, truth is in fact, in these instances, absolute. Policies can be gray. I can say I want small government. You can say you want big government. There is no wrong or right there, because if you want small government and you say, well, you don't want any assistance here and there, and as long as you're able to live with those consequences of small government, so be it. I want right-sized government, which generally means government bigger than the biggest corporations in town, the biggest corporations, period. Why? Because corporations are we, the shareholders. Government is we, the people. When they have taught you to hate government, they were teaching you to hate yourself. When they told you to hate government, when they told you that government is no good, they were telling you that you are no good. And you know what? Until we take back our government, they're right. We are no good until we realize that government is us and we get involved in government. District 7 is my idol. They are my idols because they made a concerted effort to take out somebody who was a clear and present danger to the people of that district. And they took him out. And they put somebody in there. The job is not done because there are two things here. All those people in District 7 have to watch the new person that they've elected. One of the problems we have is we elect them and we think they're going to be just going there and be benevolent and do all that's right, forgetting the influences that they must partake of from the lobbyists and everybody else. No. We have to continue the job. We have to keep them honest. You know, even Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you have to keep her honest. Because believe me, the pressure is going to be on. We're coming close to the show. I'll check out to see what I need to answer on the page. Folks, I'd like to remind you that this is a progressive show. Please remember, we need your support. We need to get these messages out. And you know what? The more we get this message out, the good thing about doing these things on the internet, this would be podcasted all over, right? Vlogcasted, podcasted, we'll get it out to, and you know, some of those rural people somebody's going to look at this and say, let me listen to what this clown have to say, and they just may see the light. But we have to be here, and we have to be able to continue doing this. So please go ahead and go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. Again, that is patreon.com/politics done right. Patreon.com/politics done right. Let's put our investments to make things better. They do it. They have their support system very much ready to go. We have to do the same. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I close this baby out? I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.